Hello and welcome to the first ever League Report with Luke. Now there's actually been a lot of NRL news lately, but I'm just going to try and stick with the recent sort of news, otherwise I could be talking all day about this sort of stuff. So I'm not going to be talking about any signings from last month, something like, I don't know, Josh Hoffman to the Parramatta. Not going to be talking about that, just going to try and keep it to the last few days and just a few if there's any sort of requests or whatever, only for this episode. No more requests in the future, I'll just talk about whatever, but because this is the first one, there was a few people requesting I talk about a few things, so I thought may as well address that. Now, I'm not going to waste any more time. Let's have a look at the first story. And that first story is Andrew Fifita has threatened to leave rugby league. Now, this one was actually reported in the Sydney Morning Herald, and apparently he spoke to his management about quitting despite having 2 years left on his contract due to his recent test snubbing. It was believed that this was due to his off-field problems, which included things like intimidating local footy referees and his public support of Kieran Loveridge. He scored the match-winning try in the grand final with a little solo effort where he powered his way over, and many people felt that he was actually deserving of the Clive Churchill medal, which ended up going to Luke Lewis, and it's also being suggested that he missed out on that for the same reasons as his test snubbing. Personally, I'm actually okay with the decision, but I know a lot of people aren't. Now we're going to move on to the second story of this video, and it's actually a player swap deal between the Newcastle Knights and the Manly Warringah Sea Eagles. The players involved are actually Jamie Buhrer and Uate. Now, I'm pretty sure that both players have actually signed 2-year deals with their respective clubs. I've seen all over social media that it's left lots of fans scratching their heads as to why Manly would want this deal to happen. Although this leads us into the next story, which is actually Manly are trying to re-sign the Trbojevic brothers. Now, both brothers are actually free to sign with other teams. They're on the open market in less than a month. So Manly are trying to lock them down as soon as possible. I think it's something like 20-something days until they can actually go and sign with other clubs. So that's not good for Manly, and yeah, they're going to be trying to re-sign them as soon as possible. Now, the numbers that have been thrown around for these guys signing is something like $4.5 million on a package deal. So that's between the two of them. I'm not sure about years. I'd assume something like 4 or 5 years maybe. Although Manly seem to sign those huge lengthy deals like Cherry Evans, so maybe it is over 8 years or something, I don't know. But I would assume something like 4 years would be more suitable. Now this is where it actually starts to tie in with the previous story with Buhrer and Uate doing the swap deal, because Manly were actually trying to look to offload players to try and get some salary cap space so they could re-sign these two guys. One of those players that they released was obviously Jamie Buhrer. Now $4.5 million is big money for the Trbojevic brothers, but I do think it might be worth it. I think they got a huge future in the game. It is a big risk, but it also could have a big reward. Another player that Manly have been linked with is actually Curtis Sironen, obviously at the Tigers there. It's a bit of a weak sort of rumour, but I thought I would include it because it kind of does make a bit of sense. He was a player who was hyped up big time, just like the rest of the Tigers youngsters, but he has failed to live up to that hype, not even getting close to that hype. He found himself in reserve grade for much of the year, and maybe a change of scenery and another opportunity would do him the world of good. Speaking of players who are stuck in reserve grade, Paul Vaughan. The Dragons have been trying to sign lots of players over the last few years and haven't really been able to get anybody to go to the Dragons. But Paul Vaughan, they're offering him huge money, $1.75 million over 3 years there. And I think that is a really, really good deal for Paul Vaughan. I would be surprised if he doesn't take it, to be honest. Of course, that is if the numbers are actually true. I mean, Paul Vaughan is a great player, and the Dragons have obviously struggled in the forwards of recent years, but I'm not sure about that figure. That is huge money. Personally, I don't know how to feel about that deal. I mean, I like Paul Vaughan. I really like him as a player, but I mean, that is stupid amounts of money for him, to be honest with you, especially considering he was in reserve grade not that long ago. Now, we're moving on to our next story. Now, it actually dates back before the grand final happened, and I'm obviously talking about Kevin Proctor here. He also had stories like rumours going back to like the start of the season where they're talking about maybe he's going to go to rugby union, maybe not. But right now, there's a bit of a rumour going around that he might be going to the Gold Coast Titans. Now, all of this actually relies on the Storm releasing the New Zealand international, but the Titans are apparently interested in bringing him in on a $1.5 million deal. Another rumour that dates back to a little while ago is Ben Hunt to the Parramatta Eels, but the thing is, things have got a little bit more juicier, a little bit more interesting as of late. Originally, it seemed like Hunt was just being chased hard by the Eels, which makes sense. I mean, they need a halfback, especially with Kieran Foran bailing on them, but there's actually now been rumours that the Broncos are after sending Radradra, so maybe there's going to be a bit of a player swap going on, I don't know. Worth mentioning is that Ben Hunt's father was actually a Parramatta Eels player, so maybe it's not all about the money for Ben Hunt. Maybe he wants to go in there and play for the Eels just like his dad did. Now, just on some other signings, there's actually a few that I'll talk about here. David Fusitu'a has re-signed with the Warriors until the end of 2019, so that's a good move for the Warriors. I really do rate the Fuss. Meanwhile, the Roosters have actually signed 3 bad boys of rugby league in Paul Carter, Liam Knight, and Zane Tetevano. Now, you might recognise the first two, Carter and Liam Knight. Obviously, Carter, as of late, had played with the Rabbitohs. He'd also been sacked from the Titans. Liam Knight didn't get sacked from Manly, but he did get in a fair bit of trouble. And, I mean, I suppose maybe kind of been sacked, not officially, but they released him without any sort of trouble by the looks of things. And there's Zane Tetevano. Now, this guy Used to play for Newcastle Knights. I don't remember him being that good, but I mean, he got into the reserve grade team of the year, I think, for the last season. So must be a pretty good talent there. But yeah, Carter and Knight probably don't deserve to be mentioned in the same breath in terms of being bad boys of rugby league, because Ted Ivano,
you worthless piece of shit!
I mean, he was jailed for bashing his girlfriend. So, I mean, when you get put in jail for actually bashing your girlfriend, I mean, that really just say you're a bit of a piece of shit. But, I mean, the Roosters, they seem to go for those sort of players, so I suppose it was a no-brainer for them. Now, I'm done with all the player signings and rumours and all that sort of stuff. We're going to move on to just general news from the NRL. And the first one being that Jonathan Thurston has declared himself available for the Auckland Nines next year. The Cowboys were the inaugural winners of the Nines, but Thurston didn't play for them, and he hasn't played for them since then. So he hasn't actually played in the Nines at all. I think it'll be really interesting to see how he goes in the Nines, whether he'll be able to kill it as well as he does in the 13er side, because there's so much space. But I mean, he's not the fastest player, but I mean, he's just so smart. He should be able to take advantage of it. Speaking of North Queensland Cowboys players, we're actually going to be talking about Kalyn Ponga. He has chosen to represent Australia, according to Jonathan Thurston anyways. Thurston said that he's going to be representing Australia, well, at least he thinks he is. He thinks he's made the decision, and out of the two of the state of origin, he's going to represent Queensland. This is great news for Aussies, and in particular Queenslanders, as much as it hurts me to say as a New South Welshman. Now we're moving on to the last story of the episode, and it actually is a pretty interesting one. Now, obviously the World Club Series is at the end of the year, where the NRL teams go over and play the best of the Super League there. Now, obviously the NRL just absolutely destroyed all the Super League teams so far, but Melbourne Storm, I think, probably Cronulla, and I'm not sure who the last team are actually going to go over and play. I think it's in like a month's time, and Melbourne aren't too happy about that. They're looking to get out of that. I'm not sure how exactly they're going to get out of it. Maybe they'll just send a reserve grade team over or something like that, but I mean, so far we've seen that the teams who do go over and play in this World Club Challenge don't really fare too well at the back end of the seasons. Anyway guys, that is the end of the episode. Hopefully you did enjoy it. If you did, make sure you go ahead and leave a like. Subscribe to my channel if you're new around here, especially if this is the first time you're watching my video. Hopefully you did enjoy it. So yeah, make sure you do subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at Mr. Luke on YT. Also, if you've got any rumors or anything that you want to send to me that you've heard from like this day, or you heard yesterday or something like that at the time of watching it, feel free to send me it. Also, you can do the same thing on my Facebook page. It's in the description below if you would prefer to do that. It's just Mr. Luke, I think. Also, if you want to leave some comments, just talk about any of the rumors that I discussed in this video, feel free to do so. Give your thoughts on some of those rumors. Anyway guys, thank you for watching. This is the end of the episode. See you later guys. Bye.